The truth is that everything was designed since colonial period to keep Africa underdeveloped. That's what I was saying. And a place of exploitation. Yes, we are a playing ground. Why is it that Africa in general is too dependent on European countries? It's not good. For the past 60 years, we have not reached a level where we say we are now good, we are on stable ground, we can depend on ourselves. So what people were saying in general was, if you, Trump, and your administration stop sending money to South Africa, then stop mining our minerals here in Africa. If you have to look at a bigger picture, in South Africa, black people suffer the most, more than white people. Not looking at one country, but looking at Africa in general. For the past 60 years, we have not done anything that we can really come out and say, wow, this is us as Africans. Because when they're looking at us out there, they don't see us as people who are really interested in developing their own continent. They see us as beggars. When you are a beggar, the person who is giving you anything, they have the power to give you less or more. And let's look at it this way. We have been receiving aid for the past, 40, 50 years as Africans. What have we really benefited that people can, the majority can really pinpoint and say, this is it? Because this aid that we have been receiving, is it for free? What Trump said about South Africa, what is happening in South Africa right now, did bring out a lot of things that are wrong with Africa.
Donald Trump says he is cutting off funding to South Africa over land confiscations. In the demented Nachi's exact words, it's only South Africa. Terrible things are happening in South Africa. The leadership is doing some terrible, horrible things. So that's under investigation right now. We're making determinations until such time as we find out what South Africa is doing.
Wait. So America is doing investigation on South Africa, and yet the people that are doing an investigation are not in Africa. Imagine. Africa has been symbolized as a kid for more than 60 years. It seems like we don't grow as Africa. We don't learn from our mistakes. We keep on repeating the same mistakes. I want you guys to listen.
They're taking away land, they're confiscating land, and actually they're doing things that are perhaps far worse than that. And it's so classic Trump, because the evil knick-knack clearly has no idea what he's talking about. Yeah. He says they're confiscating land, which is probably about the Expropriation Act our government just signed, which does not arbitrarily confiscate land. It expropriates land that is not being utilized in the public's best interest, like every country in the world does. And he says the leadership is doing terrible things.
What terrible things? What terrible things? Trump actually mentioned that horrible things are happening in South Africa. And the way you were saying it seems like those horrible things are happening to white people.
Because then he says, so that's under investigation right now. We're making determinations until such time that we find out what South Africa is doing. So it's just an investigation. He doesn't know of any terrible things that South Africa is doing. And he says, and actually they're doing things that are perhaps far worse than that. Perhaps. So again, you don't know.
Yes,
you're just
sure.
talking cuck.
So as a president, you're not supposed to just come out and say we are doing an investigation and perhaps they're doing much more, horrible things. What if you just wait and do your investigation, and when you find out, like, you have proper evidence, and then come out? Now, what if you do your investigation and then you find nothing? Are you going to come out and apologize to South Africa?
We have depended on US aid for over 60 years, and the moment the owners of the money say, let's take a 90-day pause that I audit where my money is going, suddenly the whole country goes into a frenzy. And this should be a moment of reflection for Uganda and the African continent in general. Okay. Often the money given to us in foreign aid is lost to corruption, misuse, depleted and overrated salaries to particular individuals, or sometimes we lose billions of money that are unaccounted for.
True.
So it only makes sense that the donor is asking for an edit, and if that means pausing the amount of money coming in, they should. And I do understand the implications of this pause, because so many heavily funded healthcare projects run on US aid, but that should be a moment of reflection. This is just a 90-day pause. What would happen if the United States just said, we're not giving you money anymore? And within their rights, they can't do that because it is their money. It's It's high time Uganda and the African continent got themselves together and actually started looking for systems that are sustainable and not always depend on foreign aid, because we are struggling with debt. On top of that, we have constant aid, which doesn't necessarily help us to have a more independent system. Instead of writing paragraphs of why this is a bad move, we should essentially realize that, oh, we are actually in a bad situation and we cannot always depend on aid because it can go any day.
Why is it that Africa in general is too dependent on European countries? It's not good. For the past 60 years, we have not reached a level where we say we are now good, we are on stable ground, we can depend on ourselves. It doesn't sound right. We are too dependent on these European countries, and one or the other, we are going to keep on suffering.
We have said, even as we acquire our land.
So now people are starting to say that South Africa is going to become like Zimbabwe. People are now circulating this clip of our former president, our late president, Robert Mugabe, because he was that one African who said, we're going to take our land back. We don't care what is going to happen to us, but we want our land back. And honestly, Zimbabweans are proud of that. Although we have challenges from here and there, but the fact that it's our, it's our land. I want to play this clip from our former president. A lot of people admired his move, and till today, some of the people, they still praise him for what he did, but because of the challenges that a lot of people are facing now, they say it was a bad move. But was it?
We shall not deprive the white farmers of land completely. Every one of them is entitled to at least one farm.
Yes. You see, back then one person was probably owning like 12 or even 20 farms. That's not fair. And that person was not black back then. It was a white person.
But they would want to continue to have more than one farm. More than one farm indeed. 15,
you
20,
see?
35 farms, one person. These are not figures I am just getting out of my mind. They are real figures. So no farmer is being left without land. Let no one who is negative want to spoil what we are doing for ourselves in order to unite Africa. We belong to this continent. We don't mind having and bearing sanctions banning us from Europe. We are not Europeans. We have not asked for any inch of Europe, or any square inch of that territory. So, Blair, keep your England and let me keep my Zimbabwe.
The man was a legend.
Mr.
The man was a legend, but we're still beggars. We're still beggars. Someone said that a country in 40 years, people must see change in terms of infrastructure, in terms of any type of development. But so guys, if you're watching my videos for the first time, just make sure to subscribe to the Blue Wire.
It's a hot day in South Africa, and Donald Trump has just come on air to say that he has seen the terrible things going on in South Africa. I live here, and I haven't really seen the terrible things he speaks about. I'm continually amazed at the disinformation that
horrible things have happened to black people in South Africa, and you will not hear any European country coming out and saying, as a nation, we're going to interfere and see how best we can make things better. Come on.
This man sends. I'm amazed that anyone would believe him. We in South Africa are laughing. We honestly are. But what worries me most is that you Americans seem to believe him.
That's honestly, it has been happening for years. Many, many years. Any little negative information that comes out of Africa to go to European countries, it becomes a big deal there. They think that Africa in general is not safe. But look at Rwanda. Probably Rwanda is one of those countries where we can safely say that it's much, much safer being there than in America. Am I lying? There is so much misinformation about Africa that is being spread in other continents, are they? When people now look at Africa, they think that we are animals. They think that there is nothing good in Africa. That is why you search Africa on Google. What comes out? What the Europeans write about Africa is what comes out. That's why you now see content creators like Wodemeyer, Tayo Aina, Stephen Duko. They are now starting to tell the African story. Because no European would come in Africa and write anything good about Africa. That is why I'm saying out there, when they are looking at Africa, they see us as a baby. Because a baby, at the end of the day, has a lot of limitations in terms of how they take care of themselves. We are those people who do something and we go to our masters and say, how did I do? Good boy. Or you naughty boy. That's us as Africans. Because when we start doing our own thing and we're not dependent on other people out there, especially out of Africa, we now have the power to say yes or no. Right now, if we were to look at a bigger picture in Africa, we don't have the power to say no. Great observation made here. Trump speaks not from a position of intelligence. A lot of people are saying that. Trump speaks not from a position of intelligence, understanding, but remarks from sheer emotion and dismal lack of civility. It's really said he's talking to dull, uninformed people who know nothing about Africa. That's true. Are Americans really that dumb? Probably. Because for years, people have been looking at Africa and think we're still on the same position. We are not. We have improved.